So hello all. We are starting our panel discussion on subversive stages. We have with us, as you all know, Sofia Biersi from Hungary and Arpita Dagat from Gujarat. You must have all watched their plays, I'm sure. So, what is, different? Is there any difference when a woman do theatre, when women do theatre? Is it as necessarily a subversive stage when she takes charge of a theatre production? Those are very interesting questions. I feel that the very fact that a woman is doing or is in charge of a play production, that fact I feel is subversive to some extent. You may or may not agree, because at least in Kerala context, there are many who do that. There aren't many women who who direct a play, or even if she writes a play, it will be directed mostly by men. So any women in charge, what does it make a difference is something that we have to discuss. Isn't it? Okay, so shall I hand over to Sophia first?
So, thank you very much. I come to directing from the side of visual, from architecture, photography. So for me, the design is more previous than the theater itself. And I was thinking that actually if we cut our brain to the left and right side, then the right side is more connected with the visuals, no? Not with the logical thinking, but with the feelings and also the pictographical thinking, the thinking in symbols. And I think that this is very true for me. So for me, the archetypes are the most important to talk through archetypes. And so I don't know if it's true for all women directors, but for me, the soul from inside is really a stage in all of my performances somehow, and I'm the most interested in the inside of our soul.
Yes, I just, before I hand over to you, I just went through her writing on, as a director note of Circle of Relationship. I found that it was a more metaphysical or spiritual journey that you are trying to do it, to bring it to stage, isn't it? Okay. Okay, Arpita.
It's interesting when we say if we need to even talk about if a woman director takes and builds a narrative. Because someone else takes agency that this is her narrative, this is her story. And I feel whenever a woman director or a performance maker takes that charge, starting from building a team, how you interact with and connect with that team, how you bring in props, visual narrative, and how that till the last point of doing a tech run and having a show and allowing it to, allowing that authority or agency, you hand it over to performers, or it's on all the stages of making. It's very different when, I'm not it's my opinion, but it's again, I feel it's very different for men and women, because there is an authority, there is an hierarchy that women, the way you said, no, okay, it's always symbol. Like I also have been a design student, so I always end up into a circle, then the designation like ABC, like it doesn't go linear. It always goes either spiral, it goes infinity, or it goes in circle. So and also interestingly, I don't know, I'm provoking this, but when we want to be collaborative or we want to open that making process, as in ki, democratic, we are being labeled that we don't know what we want. Actually, we know what we want, but we also want that process not to be like a single person's journey. We want to weave that narrative by giving that agency to also the performers or the designers or people come along. And I find we tend to give away that very easily to people. We include them very openly. Then getting into any theater group run by or director, I think they know for sure that they know what they are doing. And then it becomes one person show performed by 10 people, then a collective art.
I know, of course. You can take this one.
So I'm just really thinking if we really can divide men and women, because we can talk about the habit or the nature of women and the nature of men, but they can also change. So sometimes the men are like very collaborative, but I think you are right that more women are like this, what you say. And also in Hungary, I know it better that there are a lot of men theater makers who ask the group, and the whole group is improvising a lot, but at the end they pick and choose, and they are very strict. They are just cut pieces, and they feel at the end that this is their own show somehow. So they really work collaborative at the beginning, but at the end they sit on the top. And maybe the women are not so much like this, but I can imagine that women can behave like this also.
So again, it's not the hatred against the men, because at the end I have come across very beautiful humans who have been a collaborator for last 12 years, and you have helped or worked with, like we have worked together to create. And I again understand that it is also feminine and masculine energy that at work, and women can also be that authoritative, but it comes out of this fear that something will be taken away from her. And that's why they usually become what they are fighting. That they become the same masculine energy that they wanted to resist. And in that process we forget, because if at every level, if you have to constantly claim, fight and hold your position, then even small act of kindness, you will look at it with the doubt that is it coming from where, like what is the intent behind it, instead of receiving it. And that's why we can see the disbalance that constantly, like receiving and giving. So I'm not saying that we are holier than everyone. We are also human, and it has a journey to it. But overall, that while I was also learning and growing up, I have seen theater makers, I have worked with them, I have done backstage for them. And I don't mind surrendering to somebody who is doing great, but at the same time, if he's constantly sitting on the pedestal and putting me down and making me feel uncomfortable about my self-confidence, then that's not a healthy space to be in, at least for arts. Otherwise, I can go and do the clerical job where I'm being humiliated, and I know that after 1 month I'm going to get paid for that, right?
Maybe also the topics are interesting, because there are really like women topics, no? What do you think about this? That do you feel that the women do different topics like the men? They do different different. They do theater on different topics. So just I'm curious if you share my opinion that that the women make more theater about the soul and our inner life, and maybe the men more about outer life, about the political issues or social issues, and the women more the inside life. Or what do you think about this?
I would say yes and no. Yes, in terms of if you look at like 100 performance pieces, then maybe in average we will find more of the pieces that are introspective, that talks about their inner journey and their inner conflict, than talking about the power equation and the world, how it operates. Because somehow we are constantly trying to figure out, am I doing something wrong that we need to figure out before challenging someone else outside. Whether men, again I'm just using men, I don't know, I have a better way of articulating it, but how the, why am I, men's world, at the end of it, it's a men's world who, they are more concerned about the power, the given, again this is very generalized way of looking at it, but, so their concerns are different than our, in terms of ki, what are, in India, you think twice before entering the temple. They don't have to think about it. You think 3 times ki, if my in-laws will approve of that or not. Even though you know that you're educated enough, you don't need their validation, but still you want to be nice to them, and in that process of being nice, you are constantly introspecting your own thoughts, your own behavior patterns, right? So women tend to, like we all, I think storytellings are basically a way of figuring out, right, what we are struggling with. And that's why I feel more and more women narratives are about inner journey, introspection, asking themselves their place in the world. Like it varies, but at the same time, I wouldn't say that they don't have the capacity to talk about the power equation, the politics, or the world. Like Anuradha Kapoor or women directors like them, they have come up with this kind of work where they don't have to say ki, oh, it's a women's journey or it's a life, and no, it's not self-indulgent or self-romanticization as well. But yeah, have I answered your question?
Yes.
Maybe I'll say a word or two. Most of Niriksha's play, maybe we have a Niriksha Women's Theatre Group. I'm part of that. Women's Theatre Group named Niriksha. So I'm a part of that. Niriksha. So in Niriksha plays are actually political, highly political, concerns the power equation outside vis-a-vis a woman. So it is both an inner journey of a woman as she confronts a political power that's going on outside. Okay. So that is how most of our play come out like that. So it is not that it need to be like that. Just, but it is I would say that it is a woman's play. Okay, it is as a woman sees the world. Our story is about such narrations. A story is a story. How is it narrated is what makes a difference, isn't it? So we try to narrate it as a woman perceives it, feels it, and her experience. That same story can be said different by someone with more privilege. Like that. So
I'm just thinking about that if there were no problem in our society that the women are depressed, is it a good word for it? That they are not equal with the men sometimes, or something like this. If it oppressed, sorry. I thought that maybe it's not the right word. So if we were equal and everybody was accepted as we are, then maybe we could speak about anything, we would feel well and those things. So, for example, I have some occasions with this oppression too, but I think that I don't speak in my performances about this at all. So I can connect to this topic that woman theater, if I'm part of it, that I'm interested in the soul, and in my project, I always try to make a map of the soul and the actors, not only in these circle relations, because I've already directed self-awareness projects, for example, with tarot cards, or the I Ching, help with the I Ching or I Ching, with the Chinese book of Chinese. And so my topic is always the invisible world, and I don't know if it's a woman-like interest, or it could be the interest of man as well. So actually, I don't really feel that that women or men theater makers has so too much to do, too much to have to discuss about, only just because in the political life or in the society, women are a bit more oppressed than men, and that's why women would like to fight also with this method, with this tool of theater. But if there were no problems with this oppression, then maybe we couldn't point out this, that women can talk only about these kind of topics. Like, for example, your show, no, if there were no problems like this, then but maybe you feel that you have to say it out, because you have to say it out for the women, all for the Indian women, all those problems. But if we are not talking about the women's personal problems with their bodies, or their problems about being oppressed in the society, then maybe we cannot really make two groups like women and men theater makers. I'm just thinking about this.
So I'm just thinking out loud with you as well. And this is very interesting, okay? So private, personal and political, right? And we can't look these things the way we do. We don't want to look at men and women, two separate entities. We more like feminine energy and masculine energy, and one, like, so in a same sense, we cannot look at it in terms of private world and outer world. Like, all the political decisions will influence us in one way or the other, and whatever inner work that we will take, that will someday, or I want it to happen sooner, will change the scenario in outer world as well, because we are more confident, more rooted in our own sense. So this psychosomatic disorders, or so my performance's takeoff point was not that the women's societal roles or how they juggle with it. That was not initial concern. The concern was, why do I feel anxious? Why, like, I come from Gujarat, so why suicide rates are so high, and why the suicide rates among the women, it's not only confined to the younger groups. Otherwise, you want to assume that they want to achieve a lot of things, so they come, like, when they feel disappointed with life. Like, I'm oversimplifying while I'm saying this, but so what are the complexity through which that they reach to this idea of attempting suicide? And then at that point in time, I realized that the women above menopause age are severely, like, suffering from mental health disorder in Gujarat. And then I started questioning, why is that so? And it is, again, it's not something I wanted to do for the world. It is very rooted in my personal experience, my equation with my mother. And what is it that no matter how much I do, that doesn't make her happy? And my whole effort was to make her happy, and my achievement doesn't make her happy. So that what is it that she's lacking in her life? And it's not, so that inquiry into one equation now has come to this idea that now each 6 boxes are different girls talking about their personal, private memories. with the hope that this is also important to talk about. Otherwise you discard ki, और मतलब let me just like औरतें नाटक करेगी तो हाय हाय मेरा दिल ही होगा ना, like that means कि when women will perform they will talk about all this romantic idea कि हाय like we are powerless entities, we are being oppressed. My first thing with this production was I'm not going to cry on stage. I am not going to blame men that you have ruined our life. I'm going to say ki this is a systematic conditioning that has brought us to this edge that things are not working anymore. And please understand, if you're a homemaker, like the women who are homemakers, if they are not mentally well, the system, home, will collapse, and it is collapsing.
Now, I don't know if our group member is here who told this to me, but we saw your performance, and he also saw it, and he was very much touched as a man, and he was very much collapsed, because actually the problem of men in Europe now, I hear often that they begin to lose themselves. Because the women begin to be so strong, they do everything. They also are the leaders of the family. Sometimes they earn more than the men. So they have really big psychological problems that they don't find themselves in the family. So actually in Europe it goes to another side because also in my family there were problems between my mother and the father. They divorced and they didn't talk to each other for my whole life, for example. And the problem was that my father was very oppressive, my mother was very strong, went out of it, and this problem never solved. And I heard a lot of stories like this, so now I think in our generation that's the problem, that there are a lot of men who are just like, okay, then the men leadership doesn't work, and then how should I behave? And so in Europe, I think now this problem is coming. So
I don't know, these are just my thoughts. Just my thoughts. Maybe it's connected or not. I think it is the same, two sides of the same coin. What she's saying and what you are saying. I felt the connection because when you have privilege, you start taking advantage of that and you end up oppressive. And once that privilege slowly goes away from you, you are lost. You don't know what to do. Because up till this time, you had a definite role to play. You were the leader. And now, when you look around somewhere, your leadership is gone. So, how to cope with that? So, there's a big vacuum. So, if you have been behaving normally, such crises may not come. So, for a person in a very oppressive situation, it may be easier, not always, easier to come out of it. But not the other way around, I think. I don't know, it's my thought.
That's true. But at the same time, I would just add to that, because I feel the generation around me of men, and when I say they are beautiful human beings, it's not that they wanted to become that oppressor. It's just that they hadn't had any other example other than becoming that macho man who deals with everything. So if they want to come out of the step down the pedestal, they will be accused that they are not men enough. So the society anyway is going through that like synthesis time where we still haven't reached to the other side of understanding, and we all feel that what will work, and that's why it's a trial and error, and that's why this is a time of very humility, where with humility we want to approach each other that let's figure this out together. Because as a woman, I am constantly defensive. How will I receive any amount of protection or love that somebody has to offer to me? Because then I'm constantly in my masculine and I don't need you. Like I used to joke to my friends, like Dhruv is my stage manager and he's a dear friend. Like now he's a dear friend. But we have been working 10 years now. I would only I'll crack joke with him saying, ki, I only need men just to carry the saman of my natak. Otherwise I don't. And it's such a brutal thing because he's the only person who takes care of entire backstage. Otherwise my performance will collapse. Like when I'm over anxious, like I'm just over analyzing, and he would like, we are doing it together. So it's not that every man is that way. It's just that they never had any other example that they can follow, that you can be humble, you can be collaborative, you can be more into your feminine self, more at rest, so that the other person also can take charge. It doesn't have to be that you have to ride the entire narrative. But so it's a good space to be in, I think. We are lost and it's a good way to figure out.
I just realized I would like to say that I like so much to be here in India because I meet men who are absolutely not so masculine than in Europe. And they are very kind, and their strength is in their peacefulness, and then I feel that they can carry me or my nature or everything I ask for. They are very calm, listening, and being able to do it for me. So I think this is the most masculine thing, being able to do, and then I feel that I can count on that person. And I think here in India, both women and men are much more peaceful than in Europe. I like it very much. And I don't know, maybe I just think, the politics of resistance. I just wanted to, I was thinking about my resistance. Can I say some word about it? Because I was thinking when I coming, what is my resistance? Because I'm not too much into the politics, except before 2 years I was too much involved in our elections, and I fighted and cut the relations with most of my relatives, so it's not very good when I come to this. But I think my resistance is that I do what I feel that I have to do, and I also come from a direction, from photography, and that's why I have the feeling that I can do what comes through me, and nothing. I mean, not nothing, but there are not too many principles that tells me that you cannot do this, you cannot do that. So and that's why I always looking for new styles, new forms. So most of my theater works, for example, is not like a theater like this that people are watching and we perform here. I would love to do only performances with participative audience, because I think it's much more interesting, because then the audience can be part of the performance and they really feel that something is happening with them. But my problem is that these performances cannot really be invited to festivals or even to other theaters, because it's not so affordable or effective in the way that sometimes one actor is handling or coping with one audience member. So then it's too expensive. But I think that kind of, and this, it could be also say that this is more a woman-like, because a one-by-one connection is more woman-like than this, that I am telling you something and you are just watching me. I don't know. For me, I like very much when the audience is involved. So I am always trying to make new ways, and also participative and also self-awareness. So these are my topics, and I always try to go after what I feel. This is my resistance.
Yes, I was just thinking the same thing when I came here. Maybe your form is the way you resist the traditional theater, I suppose. So you are trying out different things. She's trying out different things. And as she says, that intimate one-to-one connection is a feminine instinct. Though I don't know if that it is true, but it could be. And also, of course, even the title circles, usually women are psychologically, is deeply connected with circles and orbits. So actually, the moon cycle is something that affects the female body. So your constellation, and that I was interpreting that in that way. Yes, it had some connection. So that's interesting what you said.
So I'm just reflecting on what you said about your resistance, and you said you're not into politics, and then whatever that you said, it actually defined your politics of dealing with things, and you're not conforming to the popular way of connecting with the audience. This innate need of connection and having a dialogue, and how you construct that dialogue, like in what capacity, how many people, at what level, how much intimate, how much distant, how much to share, when not to share. So these are all the layers of resistance, like the way we want to tell, how much we want to tell, when to tell, whom not to tell, and when to just step back and say, yeah, you're right, please go ahead and do your stuff. So these are the nuances in which we poke, take 2 steps back, maybe just smile and say, yeah, yes, you're right, and go home, and say, yeah, I don't need to waste my energy fighting you for this. So I look at it as a form of resistance, because every time you can't pick on a fight with everybody and educate them. So I really like the way you said that your performances are not political, and then actually you defined everything about your performance making politics, and I just love it, because that's exactly, I also approached, one of the production is called Ukhanu. So basically it's a Gujarati word for puzzle, riddles. That's called Ukhanu, and I created this. It's an installation, interactive installation piece. It has a white blank space, and at a time, not more than 3 or 5 people can enter that blank space. And then there are these characters from Alice in Wonderland's characters, who are constantly trying to construct a dream for Alice. And they are asking you the riddles, telling you the story about Alice. And these 3 characters may vary, their narrative will vary about the Alice. So for 3 of them, Alice is different. And I always constantly relate with Alice, as a performance maker or a storyteller. I don't know, my go-to story is Alice in Wonderland, because whenever I'm dealing with people around me in this society where somebody is treating me as a goddess or a godlike figure, or because I have a potential to conceive a child and give a lineage to their family, and the same family is putting me down for not wearing bindi or sindoor or something else. So I always feel I'm in this wonderland that constantly, I don't know, sometimes I'm too much, sometimes I'm too small, sometimes I'm not actual who I am. So this is, again, it's a visual storytelling. There are 3 people, and there is no Alice in that box. So everyone is defining Alice, but Alice is not there. So, this resistance thing, it's not something that we need to go on face, hold the neck, hold the torches anymore, because we don't know whom we are resisting. It's a psyche that we are resisting now, I feel.
Thank you very much that you say this, because I had the same thought, but somehow when I think about making theater about politics, yes, politics. Maybe the men would make an outer side and the woman the inner side, what you said. And really, for example, just to show the people the ways of self-awareness through theater, this is a big help maybe to be much better in politics somehow. So, yeah, thank you.
It was something I read about about your interest in planetary constellation. When I went in search of that, I found it very lot of subversive theater possibility in that, because the person who practiced that as a therapy, that planetary constellation therapy, with I know I just read through that when I read your note. I just went and checked what it was. And I found it very interesting in the sense that it is a therapy thing, okay, where one person says his or her problem within a family. Other people take the role of her family members, and they interact as family. So they are not really her family members. So there is a lot of subversion can happen there. Point of views. Yes. So I thought that you said that inspired your thing. I read from your note that planetary constellation.
Actually, in our performance, there are two things which are very resistive, I think, and very strange, and a lot of people doesn't believe in it. One is the method of the family constellation, which is a very old method, but it is connected to Hellinger, who was a German person, about family constellation.
I have, if I'm understanding right, it's into this constellation that because of which the way you feel or your trauma or history gets resolved, and
this constellation is very simple. There are people who doesn't know you, and nobody knows anything.
Okay.
Just you know your inner question, and maybe you don't tell your question. So you are here, you don't know anything about me, and I ask you that please stand there, close your eyes for a while, or not close, but turn inward, and just then after some seconds, when you really feel something or think something, then express what you feel and think. And maybe there is another person in the space and staying there. And then these two persons begin to interact. Maybe this interaction is only like one person turning towards the other, but the other shows her back to the other. Then maybe that one sits down. And maybe only this happens, but this is a theater, no? One is watching the other that turns her back. And if the question is about that, maybe the person who asked it gets an answer about it. Sometimes they say only one sentence to them. So it's very, very simple, but somehow they call it the net, or I don't know in English how they call this. This is the universal net, that somehow you are connected to an invisible world that you don't know anything about the person, but then you can behave like his father who has died, I don't know, 20 years ago. You can behave like a child that never was born, for example. And then you can understand a lot about your life. Your most important questions that nobody can answer to you, you can maybe get answer from this family constellation. But the astrological constellation is that you use not only this, what I said before, it's much more complicated because you use the horoscope elements, you enlarge it on the floor, and there are the planets, the places of the planets, and the people do the same. They stand on Mercury, Mars, but they don't know if they are Mercury, Mars, or Sun. They don't know about anything, Aries, or I don't know, Aquarius, nothing. They just have to turn inward. And that's a method. This is one method. Maybe a lot of people doesn't believe in it. And my aim is to with with our performance to, how you say it, make it more popular, or just people who doesn't know anything about it, maybe it will be interesting for them and they would try out, and when they get their answers, maybe they would like it, I don't know. And the other thing is the astrology, which is only just used for this method. So these two methods, these are for a lot of people not very strange, but actually for the ancients, I think it was absolutely not strange. But now we are very much logic. We are thinking with the left side of our, and the right side should go to the kitchen, I don't know. But it's very useful. We can use that side of the brain too.
This is very interesting because in this, there's constantly a defined role for audience and something to offer to the audience, for the audience. And something that Anu ma'am once told me, that there's a book called Melodramatic Audience. So it's not that, so it's not in the context of what your method is. I'm just saying ki it's more like you are hunting for answers, and it could happen that just if the leaf falls from the tree and then maybe something moves inside you and you found the answer. So that connection, like, you know, that I may use the liberty to use the word randomness. So how it plays out for audience, you know. And this is one reflection, and another is a question for you, like, because I'm very much interested in this idea of going inward and connecting with yourself and moving and interacting in a way that someone else, and that is for now in performance making, the audience would find answers. So how do you work with your actors in that process? Because when you come for the festival like this, you're traveling, you're looking at logistics, you're thinking of costumes, props, this, that, whoa. And then how do you make them to come to that neutral point where they connect, they go within, or do they act?
So for the actors, this, what we do in an astrological constellation, is maybe the best way to work, because they have to put on stage their own improvisation, actually. So it is very good for them, because I don't have to tell them anything, but they experience something in the improvisation, and I just ask them to repeat it on the stage. So maybe, and in our performance, but it is very special because now we are 3 actors and all of us are very, how you say it, self-going, or very...
Connected with them. Go with them.
So I don't need to guide them. How you say it, very self... what is it? So they choreography themselves, actually. So I'm like the director in this piece. I'm not very much in it. Some things I have to say, the main rituals, or some things, but this is a method that everyone stood on one place, something happened to them, and they just have to repeat it on the stage, actually. So both partners are very good actors, and they are also choreographers. So I didn't want to do anything, because I like very much what they do themselves. So in this project, there are other projects where I'm more leader-like. In this project, the concept is mine, and the visual, all the visual things that expresses the planets, the head symbols, and the frame of the whole thing, like how you put it down, how you lift it up, how you make the rituals in it. And of course, if I don't like something, then I say it, and they also say it to me. And if we are fighting or something, then maybe maybe my is the last word, but not always.
So and how this
Time to wind. 2:30, the next show. Maybe that quick question.
so in that process, I'm just now curious because now the way you're unfolding the process, I'm more interested. So I understand what performers do, but how do you breach that understanding for the audience that this is for you and you can engage or maybe figure out the answers? So how do you bring audience in for this understanding that this is, it's one way of looking at it as a spectator, that people are doing something and go home, and to actually connect with it and maybe find something from it. So how do you bring the audience in bring into your concept?
At the beginning of the performance, I'm telling us, I have a speech about astrology, the constellation method, so I say everything about it. I mean, very roughly, but I try to communicate all the rules, how we work. I can, maybe not all of the audience can follow it or can, I don't know, who could follow it, but I try this. And at the beginning of each showing each constellation, we put down the planets' head symbols, like we say that this is the Mercury, and Mercury in the Aries, it is quick and direct. So this I wrote, because I'm also an astrologist, and I wrote very short sentences about the planets, so I tried to grab them. So we put them down. And also in the subtitles, they can follow that Saturn, Mars, and who is speaking, so they can maybe remember on this. Maybe it could be more explanative, that now you are watching the Mars, so should be in Leo, it should be very proud and confident, but I'm be telling it at the beginning, and later the audience is just going with the story or with the piece. But actually the piece was written and somehow also directed by the invisible world. So we didn't do too much about it. Of course, we cut sentences out, which we thought it is too much. We play with the movements, some movements we put later, but not too much. So actually, because we made the constellation at the beginning as movement actors, there were very, very interesting movements that we kept. So actually, I'm very much in this performance. I'm very much how you say, based on this invisible word that. I didn't want to say that I know it better. So I was like, okay, you know it, because actually I didn't know at the beginning that it will be like this. First, I wanted to make constellation, and I thought that we will do something out of it. But it was so interesting, so many very interesting philosophical sentences that I thought that it must be shown like this.
That's also one way of following the ritual.
Yes, yes.
Yes, that's why even though it sounds even she's speaking astrology, even if you don't agree to or follow the astrology thing, there is so much subversive elements in the whole. When Mercury is in Aries, what should it do? Somebody else is saying the answer, isn't it? So I mean, I am interpreting it in my own way. Okay, so sorry for that. So the conversation was turning very interesting, but the time is up. To have a show at 2:30, so we are winding up this discussion. Thank you all. Yes, so okay. Audience, it's open to audience now. Anybody has any query? Anything to ask? Yes, I said that.
Hello. Yes. Yes. എനിക്ക് ചോദിക്കാനുള്ള ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ ഐ ഡോണ്ട് നോ വെദർ യു വിൽ അണ്ടർസ്റ്റാൻഡ് ഇറ്റ് ഓർ നോട്ട് ബിക്കോസ് ലൈക്ക് ഐ എം പ്രിറ്റി ഓവർവെൽംഡ് റൈറ്റ് നൗ. സോ എനിക്ക് ചോദിക്കാനുള്ള ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ നമ്മളിപ്പോൾ ഈ പ്രാവശ്യം കണ്ട ലൈക്ക് ഷോസിൽ വെച്ച് നോക്കുമ്പോൾ ചെക്കിങ് ഇറ്റ് ഔട്ട് ലൈക്ക് the lack of representation in about queer people like in theater or anywhere like it is like really clear and namukku kaanalil like you will see only like subtly you will see like certain queer people and when you're talking about even women we cannot see AFAB people who are feminine or trans women or anything like that. So what do you think, like, where does it come from? Is it just the society's viewpoint that you're just reflecting, or don't you think that there should be some sort of, some sort of things, some sort of input the maker should make and empower the queer people also in terms like queer. I have never seen a trans woman theatre maker or those kind of people. Maybe it is there, maybe it is because I don't know much about it. But even in the dais or like those aittulla sessions in other, we can see the binary where if you are looking all around, binary is not like nammala aduthu onnum binary alla. Binary is just a computer language and still now we are following the binary. And why isn't it focusing on breaking the binary and showing representing non-binary characters, or at least subtly talking about it? Maybe they are subtly talking about it, but why is there no? I have not seen much conversation on it. And in the Ravla there was a show about queerness. I was not able to see it, but most probably I'll see it tomorrow. So like I want to hear something like a point of view about it, like why there is no much representation of queer people, trans women, feminine, non-binary people, gender fluid people who might be feminine. So yeah.
So initially the way I talk about the performance that I have like showcased here, it was meant for this, like because it started with the idea of mother and the roles that they were being played. I don't know whether I'm qualified to say ki why there is no representation in it folk, but as a performance maker as well, when I make an effort to approach some of my friends, like I don't know whether I should even name them, because whether they would like me to represent and talk about them. And when so they are performance maker. It's just that maybe they are not sending their performances here, or they are not getting selected here, or there is no representation as such. As far as my performance making is concerned, it's never a conscious choice to not include. But if I don't have opportunities around me or the connections around me who are participating in it, I don't even also want to impose that idea that I want to be inclusive. Because sometimes I also have experience that when I approach, I've been outcast in the name ki what would you understand about us? You know? So in Ahmedabad, I have tried that twice. Like I wanted to conduct a workshop. I did conduct a workshop with them. But after a point, it's just that me trying to make effort, and also this comes across as if I am trying to take away something from them. So then I had to step aside and allow it to happen organically, that we collaborate together without this intention, with this underline that it's a LGBTQ plus community whom I am collaborating with. At the end, it's a human, no? At the end, it's talking about feminine and masculine energy and how people want to present themselves or live their lives. So right now I performed item. I have 2 more concepts for item 2.0 and 2.0.
3, in which I really wanted, like after my very first show of item, I really wanted to work with them. But if I am not welcome in that, and if I am being looked at only just to, inquiring or poking in their private life, then I don't want to become that person who introduce, like, get into their life just to showcase on a platform. And if they want to take agency of telling their own stories, then I would want to facilitate, but I can't just hover on their head, right? So 2.0 is about I want to do with men. So these girls are opening curtains and telling the stories. I really want to have 6 men in the boxes, shutter up, shutter down. That is in my mind, like a shop ka shutter open hota. And then they are telling about themselves. And another concept is about the LGBTQ community, like LGBTQ plus community, that I really want them to, because item, I can only talk about my performance making practice, that item is a format that can be occupied by anybody and in one thematic can be woven. So it's not a conscious decision not to include. That's what I can say.
Yeah, I just want to, take up on her point. This is similar. I mean, this is true in the case of other marginalized communities, castes, Dalits, and their presence on the stage. It's also, the presence itself is a kind of resistance, which I see absence in these kinds of spaces. And we expect those things that happen in this kind of spaces. So that is my comment, and my question to you as a director of item is that, have you performed this item in Gujarat? Because this play is very important for us, is because it comes from Gujarat. That's also very important, because understanding about Gujarat is something very different. And then the question is this: did you perform this play in Gujarat, and how was the Gujaratis' reactions to this play?
So we have performed item in Gujarat, and I would say कि whatever the representation of Gujaratis we all understand in terms of overall behavior, not everyone is like that, and it was very well received. And some of my friends who walk up to me say कि we want to be in the box and we want to tell our stories, and I am always open for that. Beyond a point, after a point, I'm not right now performing because of the lack of funding that we were talking about it. It's not with the idea that there is no audience for that or no performers who wants to occupy the box. So in Ahmedabad, okay, so we were just discussing among the actors, and we were like, yesterday we were discussing that the listicles part, I don't know how many of you have seen the performance, but when it talks about 10 things you should know about losing your virginity, Ahmedabad, Gujarat thing.
Hello, thank you so much. Is there any question? Fine. So we need to go for the next show is about, the Be Loved is discussing the cure issues and stuff like that. It's a wonderful play. So it's in the ITFO. So we have to go there and watch that production also. Okay. Fine. If you can ask, no issue, but if you...
Very quickly, if you could please. I was wondering that, have you taken this play elsewhere as well, like to other countries? Okay, so it's been performed in Hungary and then in India. All right, but still, the audience reception, I was wondering, like, how accepting have they been of, and how much of resistance have you had from the audience? Have they been of, and how much of resistance have you had from the audience, given the ideas that you deal with the play? So I was wondering, like, how given the ideas that you deal with the play. So I was wondering, like, how much of resistance and how much of acceptance has there been, and what has the audience said about it? What have they felt? Yeah.
Here in India, I haven't heard too much from the audience. In Hungary, I was trying to reach the astrologist community in Hungary, and in Hungary also the astrologists have two parts. one part who is very much interested in, and the other part who resists against it because they believe that astrology works, but they don't believe in constellation. And then there are people who are interested in maybe both, but they are very open. And the people who doesn't have preconcepts about a theater, how it should be, and really can be open and just go together with the characters. And so some people said that they really understood that these are our inner personal parts who talk with each other, or that you should understand that your world is not only your inner world, but your world with all together with the outside world. So when they can really understand this, and most of the people said that they could relate to one and another scene. So they really felt that, yes, this exactly happened with me, or with the other one, it happened with them. So they could personally relate to my constellation or to Julia's constellation. Exactly, there was another constellation shown in Hungary previously, but it would have been too long for here to show.
Thank you so much for the panelists, because the show is about to start. We need to go there. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for the panelists for the great discussion. Thank you so much.